Seeing comedy as an art form, I will not deny any comedian the chance to use the Bible as their source of humour. There are many comedians who have a Christian faith, such as Milton Jones, Tim Vine and Tim Hawkins, the latter in particular using the occasional reference to God in his works. But it seems the majority of Bible-using comedians are outspoken atheists, at least 3 of whom have appeared in my Reels runs. I'm all for edgy comedy, having a particular liking for Frankie Boyle and Jimmy Carr, neither of whom are particularly afraid of making jokes that are disparaging towards the church or any form of religion. However, one comedian in particular has been noted on several talk shows to make no effort to avoid offending people, and is willing to discuss his atheism outside the realms of comedy. This man, as I'm sure you're aware, is Ricky Gervais. On one of these talk shows, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, he raises 3 points, which he says put atheism in a nutshell. It's these 3 points I'm going to be addressing in this video. They may seem reasonable at first, but upon closer inspection, do not, in fact, give a very good position for atheism to take. Since the video is blocked from being remixed or copied, I can't share it on this channel, but I will leave a link to it so you can find it yourself. Before we begin, I will say I have no wish to disrespect Ricky in this, despite his seeming contradictions in his assertion of atheism. Agnostic or not, he's certain in his position, and regardless of what people might say, he doesn't concede otherwise. With all that in mind, let's dive straight in. His first argument is off the back of this. He simply says, "You believe there is a God. Can you prove it? No? Then I don't believe you." This is more an issue of evidence, which isn't unique to God. There are some people, both deeply religious and in science, who don't understand evolution, to the point they don't trust the evidence that many in the field have to prove its validity. Just because he doesn't accept the evidence that people present doesn't mean the position is invalid. It's just a matter of education and, more often than not, understanding where that evidence comes from. His second argument is the scale of atheism argument. There are 3,000 gods that you are atheist towards. I'm just atheist towards one more. A classic short, sharp answer to which my response is, how much of a cannibal are you? To clarify, they say that we are atheistic towards 2,999 gods. If they don't believe in one more god, they are 0.033% more atheist. As a vegan, Ricky only eats plants and their products. All life comes from a singular common ancestor back in the distant parts of Earth. Therefore, technically, any form of life that we eat is technically a type of cannibalism. True, there are over 8 million species of plants on the planet alone, and including the animals, and some estimate that we only eat around 200 different plant species and around 7 animal species. But even if we take all 300,000 edible species and give a more sensible estimate of consumed animal species of, let's say, 30, that only makes me, as a meat eater, 0.1% more of a cannibal than Ricky. I'm not a maths expert, but I'm pretty sure I'm more sure about my diet than Ricky is about his belief. Not only that, but it completely fails to understand the literal meaning of atheist without God. Any God. There's no scale of atheism. You are or you aren't. If you're not sure about that, you're agnostic. His third is the repeatability argument. If all science books are destroyed, in 1,000 years they'll be back exactly the same. If all religious texts are destroyed, in 1,000 years they'll be written completely different. This is an interesting one. But I think the thought experiment needs not only further detailed setup parameters, but also the exact same guidelines when it comes to the results. Firstly, we had to ask what is the information that will be lost. It sounds like Ricky is suggesting the basic data that we gather from experiments, which leads to the great scientific discoveries. This would be correct, but that is because it is repeatable and therefore confirmable. On the religion side, we can assume that he's saying the basic information about the prophets, creation, the rise of man and so forth. Here, he would also be correct, but that's simply because it is history and wouldn't repeat exactly the same. If anything, it would be a bit more suspicious if Abraham showed up again in a book and became the nucleus of free religious movements again. We can assume he's referring to the moral compass of religion being totally different, but since, according to some, morality is based on evidence, it is likely we're going to get the same general idea rather than go off the rails. Plus, we don't need to destroy the books for this to be worked out, since most religions in the world today have the same general moral principles and tend towards love and peace as a focal point. Sometimes inner peace, sometimes local peace, and some peace through superior force. With that in mind, what about a total history rewrite? We are blasted back to the Stone Age and we have to restart civilization, rediscover everything and rewrite religion. But we have a scenario. In this scenario, everything will be changed and we will have a completely different history. Again, the basic data principles of science will be rediscovered. Only odds are we will not be using the same terms, measurements, or possibly even numbering system. We're not going to be talking about Newtonian or Einsteinian physics, because they are not the ones who figured it out in this scenario. On the religion front, it is the same again. Same basic principles of community and peace, but with different names, different preachers and prophets, and different words used. In short, exactly the same as the last scenario. So quite apart from being the stomp on religion that so many think it is, this argument isn't exactly flawless and requires far more than just a simple look that many people think is the case. Similar to how some atheists say if you probe the Bible and its teachings, it falls apart. If you give the argument due care and attention, it doesn't hold up to more than a cursory glance. That may be enough for some people today, but not everything can be considered rational. So the so-called great free arguments against religion aren't all that great, and more show the person's limited understanding of their position they are taking on the topic. Ricky makes many comedy routines out of religious sources, and some I can understand, like a children's picture book version of Noah's Ark. I'm aware he wasn't intending to be aware of Christian sentiments in that routine, and merely found the best source of humour he could, which wasn't that bad considering. But true comic genia have attempted to make fun of deeply held religious beliefs and found there was nothing even remotely funny to laugh about. The team behind Monty Python's Life of Brian genuinely delved into the story of Jesus of Nazareth and tried to find a way to make it funny. These were titans of comedy who still make people laugh over 40 years later in big and small ways. And even John Cleese, Basil Fawlty himself, who was raised in a Church of England school and left with a high level of disdain for the Christian Church, couldn't find anything funny to do with Jesus. The only time we get any reference to Jesus in the whole film was someone at the back of the crowd, possibly the Servant of the Mount, shouting, "Speak up! I can't hear you!" As an artist, a comic and a writer, I will never speak ill of Ricky Gervais. He has his style, and it works for him. And if I don't like it, I don't have to watch it. I fully accept that, and I'm not going to bash him for it. In his arguments against God, I don't see that he has much to go on. It's a great means of getting a laugh, but like anything else in comedy, if you take it too seriously, it loses much of its effect. His beliefs are his, and he will continue to share them in his work as he wishes. Doesn't mean we can take them seriously. So at the end of the day, Ricky is a good laugh, but his arguments don't stand up under examination. And you try to make comedy out of Jesus, remember, people have tried that, and they couldn't find anything. They weren't particularly caring about people's sentiments either. Best stick to things that you know will get the laugh. So thanks for watching. Stay safe, have a laugh, and God be with you.